TikTok, it's time to rock, ladies and gentlemen. It's a cool compliment. It's a cool compliment of the 5150 Sunday show this week. He's back from his gigging, from his northern sojourn.
Yes. Theatre tour. Oh, he saw the pictures. Fantastic.
Hanging out with all these high rollers.
Yes.
Yes, I'm back from my theatre expedition, which was amazing.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Good.
And yes, it was a lot of fun. A lot of lack of sleep. Let's put it that way. Early flight trips in taxis, cabs, buses to gigs and loading, lugging. A lot of work, but it's all makes up for it when you hit the stage. It's well worth it.
Listen to him on his private plane flying around the country.
But that's what it's about, isn't it? You know, for a lot of us, whether or not we have the luxury or the ability, and maybe just even the opportunities, bro, to perform. Certainly in the area that you're doing, or if you're like me, I'm just playing in front of my dog. It's
well, and no, I agree. Look, I'm grateful to be playing again. All things considered, it's been a pretty challenging few years, really. But this year, health-wise, I've had a lot of challenges, so it's been great to be back out. And, I'm not 100% yet, guys, but, it's great to be back doing it and feeling like I'm about 80% there, which is good enough to play gigs at the moment. So thank God,
Well, we're glad to have you back, and we're very happy that we got the pass of approval from Brad, ladies and gentlemen, in the green room, the rock professor and I. So that's always important. When one of us are away, it's really important that the other one. Yeah, you guys did it right. Okay, I'll give you. I'll give you 8 out of 10. We got 7 out of 10 from Brad. We didn't Brad score it, but 7 out of 10 because.
He's right in there, right in the mix. We are 7 out of 10.
Soon we're going to have to start calling Brad the professor too with his scores.
No, there's only one rock professor here, Andrew. That's it. There's only one.
Yes.
He's the official clickbait this week, isn't it? I'm sure of it.
Well, who knows? Who knows what these clickbait fingers are going to do this week? But seriously, rock professor, you've got an initiation to do.
Yes. Welcome to the second. Welcome to the second Happy Fen Sunday.
Yes. All right.
Where I haven't got my Fender out. Disgracefully, I've got something else out. But
I did know that you guys said that last week when I was away. I was like,
yes.
I've got a slight insight now. To me, Fen Sunday will always be Gib Sunday. So.
See, you're already taking it somewhere else. You're already breaking it. Fantastic.
I don't care. That banner's staying there. Fen Sunday staying.
So anyway, happy Fen Sunday to everyone in the chat and everyone else. And I'd like to say as well, thank you. We did this this week. You might have seen this on my Facebook if you follow me on Facebook. My mum's memorial on Thursday, which was epic. And 200 people there, something like that, from all over the country. A live stream of it went fantastically well. And
that's wonderful.
So thanks to everyone for your kind messages, and the support was really appreciated by me. fantastic.
Oh,
you
that's
know.
brilliant.
Yeah, we had a great day. And when was the last time we went to a funeral and the final bit was, and the Oscar goes to, which is what my sister did. Fantastic. Put a little Oscar on my mum's coffin. Fantastic. It was great.
Okay, so we're sorry, not taking away anything from
No.
your mum's memorial, but look, I'm glad that we sorted that out for Robert. Robert wanted to know what Fen Sunday was.
Yes, indeed. That's what Fen Sunday is, Robert. Brad has already ruined it by having a Gibson. He said, a man with not a Fender behind him. I've got a Fender-shaped guitar.
Every gang's got to have a rebel. Right?
Thank God! Thank God it's Brad, so it doesn't have to be us. Oh dear.
Look, some channel news, guys. During the intro, so obviously we've been a little bit busy this weekend. We did a show yesterday, a release party show on the channel for Tuck Smith and the Restless Hearts. We showed a couple of videos, and we spoke a little bit about
YouTube, didn't you?
Yeah,
incurred the wrath of YouTube.
Yeah, we showed a couple of videos and spoke about the video that we did the week before with Ricky Dover. He managed to jump on the live stream, but yeah, it was it's interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that, Rock Professor and Simon. So I'm sitting here in here in my man cave, streaming, playing the video, and then I'm getting people on the comments saying, what happened? And then realised a little bit later on, Brad, that YouTube stopped the streaming. The link still carried on until the video finished, and then then we came back on. So it's interesting because depending on what the recording company is or whatever, they ask or want YouTube to do one or two things. But don't you think, guys, that if you're showing an official video talking about an album, so we can't get monetized, so we can't get 20 cents for that video that we did, that 20 cents, Simon, goes to the recording company. Well, should have gone to the recording company, but yeah, interesting. So, I just think we're going to have to be careful about doing anything like that in the future, Simon. If we're going to be showing any music videos, we've got to be very careful.
Absolutely, I did think it was weird that there are certain bands who are just going to ban you straight away. Certainly huge bands like Queen or something, who you play their stuff, you just But I was amazed that playing Tuck Smith, clearly is, basing some of the, release and promotion on social media and things that you've got nuked for that. That was really quite surprising. But
yeah, but it just means though, Brad, that we'll have to be careful if we're going to do anything like that to support any bands or any artists in the future, bro. We're going to have to be careful about what videos we play. I suppose technically the only safe thing we can do, guys, is talk about it and show pictures. Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's nice to be able to, present it in a video form, because the whole world now, social media, it's all about videos. They don't even want pictures anymore on Instagram. They want video, reels.
Yep.
Everything's about video. So it's disappointing that, on a YouTube channel, which is all predominantly videos, we're not allowed to highlight bands. If you're promoting it, we should be allowed to do that. But obviously the copyright laws come in, and that's what banishes us.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to claim your copyright ownership. That's fine. It's another thing to cut you off in midstream. I think that's most odd myself. But
I've had start of the year when I used to do a lot more stuff, Instagram Live, for example, playing guitar, and when I was playing along with some Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff, like the actual recordings, I got muted because Instagram said it was copywritten when I was doing an Instagram live. So it happens. Yeah.
Well, we just
weird.
need to be aware of it. We did another show this morning too, ladies and gentlemen, with Jim V, a show before the EVH Con Vention, which is going live tomorrow. So I'm going to get up bright and early, 6 a.m., maybe 5:30 a.m. New Zealand time, and we're going to stream that on our channel. We don't know how it's going to work. The Rock Professor's going to jump on at some stage. Brad's going to jump on at some stage. Hoss is going to jump on at some stage. I'm going to take you guys for a 2-minute drive when I go from home to work, and I'll be finishing the stream at work. But let's give it a go, guys. Let's see how it's going to work. It's either going to be a complete disaster or it's going to be fantastic. One or the other, Brad.
It'll be fine.
I think we're quite fortunate enough to get the we've got it. We've got the ability to stream from there, so we'll make it work, Andrew. We'll do the best we can.
Yeah, cheers, brother.
Yeah. Yeah, I should be turning up with a leg of lamb and a roast potato.
But seriously, guys, too, I want to alert everybody. Some of you I'm seeing here in the chat here will be aware of this, but a very good friend of ours of the channel, John Conklin, and Brad and I had the pleasure of bringing John into the YouTube community. He hosted as a fill-in a 5150 show with us when Kurt couldn't make it, and he managed to get on after that, not long after that, on to the Fruitcake Tony show. And because of his work commitments, can't do that. So he's, jumping on us on our show every 3 or 4 weeks. But he's in hospital, waiting for heart surgery. He's allowed us to mention that. So if you guys can please keep John and his family in your thoughts and in your prayers, I'm sure he'll be grateful.
Yes, all the best, John. I'm sure it will go well. And, we're sending all of our prayers and warm thoughts to you, mate. All the best.
Yeah, absolutely, John. Yeah, get well soon. So that's not a very nice thing to have on a weekend, is it? It's
No.
Well, I hope it all goes well and soon, and you're back on the YouTubes, amongst other things. But back with your family and all those important things. Yeah. Yes.
So guys, so before I jumped on, we're on 8,800 subs too.
I know.
Yes. Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's I just looked at that before, and we've certainly come a long way this year. It's been outstanding. Great result.
Yeah. Yes, it's been a wild ride, isn't it? Yes. Will we get to 10,000 by Christmas? That's the question.
Well, even if but even if we don't, like for me, I never expected 8,000 subscribers.
No.
Personally, I think it's a good time now maybe to thank everyone who has subscribed, and thank you so much for your kindness to subscribing to our channel. We're just 3 guys that really enjoy music, and we love what we talk about. And obviously, we add value to some people's lives. So thank you so much. And for everyone who's tuned in and watching and continues to tune in and watch us, thank you as well. Some people have been along with our ride for a long time, guys.
So, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And yes, could we say, if you haven't subscribed, please could you subscribe?
Yeah.
It's, helps the channel. Helps us.
Yeah.
Cheers us up.
Yeah, we're always going to do that. We're always going to ask for subscriptions, and we're always going to ask you at the same time to go and check out our friends too, because what Brad and I and the Rock Professor and everybody does here on this channel, and we've made it many times. We've said it many times. We're just friends. We're just mates. We're just getting together. We're a collective. We're a collaboration. And a lot of people have helped us along the way, Simon and Brad, and we want to help a lot of other people as well. So if you guys have any musical projects that you want to share with us, if you've got any social media links or any plans you want to take advantage of what Brad and I and the Rock Professor have built here, we'll do it. The only thing it's going to cost you in return is your time.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. It's got to come.
Yeah.
Turn up every week.
Yeah, you got it. Well, if we're going to do an interview with you or something like that, you jump on and, and we're happy to do that. So, and we're getting some good feedback because obviously, what we do here on this little bit of YouTube land, Brad, has a bit of an effect. So go and support our friends on our community page. And again, I'm going to keep saying this. If you want to go on that community page, let us know. We'll put you there. Easy. Job done.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, shall we turn our attention to this week's magnum opus?
Sure.
Yes. I can't believe we haven't actually ranked the tracks on this one, guys, already.
No, we haven't. But we have done shows where we've spoken about this, though, Brad. I think we did our favorite Les Paul riffs, you and I, a while ago, and I think we picked a couple of songs off this album. Alan Garber came on one ZoSo show a couple of months ago and hung out with us and spoke about the gear that Jimmy Page used on this album. So we won't go over that ground, ladies and gentlemen, even though we've got some photos that we love to flick through. But we won't talk a lot about the gear because we already have that logged here on the channel, and we'll attach that, Brad. We'll attach that somewhere if you want to go and see that, because Alan, he's not a skier. He's a guitar player, and he is very, very, very knowledgeable when it comes to a lot of things, and we're lucky to have him jump on and hang out with us, Brad and Simon.
100%. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Always
Nice.
A pleasure to have one. Man of many talents and much knowledge.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The interesting part is I already had notes for this album, so we clearly went through it in some detail a long while ago. I can't remember how long ago.
Okay. Well. Like I said today, guys, with Jim, because he wants to rank a Van Halen album with us. And I said, you pick the album and do it. And he goes, but what if it's one you've already done? I said, we've done them all. And he goes, okay, do you guys mind doing them again? And I said, no, because Brad and I and the Rock Professor, we've always said that, what we hear and what we know about an album today is going to be different when we get some information. And I use Brad Van Halen 3 as an example. So when we ranked Van Halen 3, we didn't know anything about what Van Halen 3 was for Eddie and all this information that came out after. So now if I go and rank Van Halen 3, Simon, it's going to be completely different because I know a little bit more of the backstory, which is always going to inform how you hear something because that's what we do.
Yeah.
100%. No, it's a great idea. Fantastic.
So guys, before I get into my little intro, Brad, do you want to tell us how you came about this album, what you were doing, what you had for lunch that day? Because I'm sure that would be in Technicolor. that whole week, probably.
That thing in Australia, Technicolor lunch.
No, his life when he discovered his album.
Moved from black and white.
Black and white to colour. And obviously the Rock Professor, who has the dubious honour of being the only person here to see them live.
Yeah. I've seen Pigeon Plant twice, but that's as close as I got.
Oh,
So,
okay. Well, that's a close second, bro. I'm
Clearly
no
not
cigar.
the same, though.
I'm no cigar then.
yeah, look. But okay, for me, Led Zeppelin II, I remember it clear as glass. I remember the day. I remember what I was doing. I was at my friend's house. Luke Foley and his brother put the CD on, and from the opening notes of the Whole Lot of Love, I was intoxicated by the guitar tone, the sound that I was hearing, and to think this was recorded in 1969. My goodness, some of the panning in the freak out section and stuff. Well, I won't spoil my notes when we get to it, but I remember hearing it, and it totally changed my life. This album did change my life in a massive way. It's the reason that I'm doing a lot of the things I continue to try and do today, even at my age. I'm still trying, and this album's a massive part of my DNA. It probably is one of the reasons I'm playing guitar, other than Hendrix at Monterey. Hendrix, Monterey, Song Remains the Same, and Led Zeppelin II. They were the obviously every time I bought another album of like Led Zeppelin or Hendrix or whatever, it just became like a little bit more spice, a little bit more chili, a little bit more salt and pepper, just a little bit more to my DNA, to the flavor of what I was listening to. But hands down, this album changed my life. And I remember what I had for lunch that day. It was a ham, cheese, tomato, toasty sandwich, Andrew, and a coffee.
Good man. Good man. Rock Professor.
Well, before I talk about it, I'm just going to say a shout out to the guys in the chat. So just quickly, good morning, Holly Lewis, Gret Zeppelin, morning team, Ellen Toll, of course. Ellen, good morning, Ellen. Johnny Heartbreaker, morning, Johnny. Morning, Arvin Gaunt. How are you? Hope you're good. Robert Ranford.
Hey, Arvin.
I think that's we've got 10 people watching. Very good. I think that's everybody who's made comments. Hopefully, I've got everyone. So, good morning to you all. Thanks for coming back once again into the team. It's great to see you all. It's fantastic. So my introduction to the show is, as I've said on the show a lot, I started my records in '72. So, and that was Led Zeppelin IV and Physical Graffiti were like the soundtracks of my school years, really, my secondary school years. But clearly going back and getting, because you can never have too much Led Zeppelin, going back and getting the first two off the back of those, and three as well. So, they were part of my teenage record collection, and a major part. And I think, that one of the reasons I, wanted to play the guitar with Jimmy Page for sure. I think there, that breadth and depth of what he does, and playing acoustic, playing electric, all sorts of things, just really struck me then, strikes me still now as a real plus, a thing that not many other people were doing, that kind of variety. And it was always a thrill. Led Zeppelin were always a thrill, and continue to be a thrill. As I say, they were just a soundtrack. I'm like, I can't remember like Brad, I can't remember what I had for lunch the day I bought it, but it would have been in a record shop in Bristol somewhere, getting my hands on it. Yeah. It was one of those records. It's one of those records you had to have.
Yeah.
Any self-respecting rock fan had to have. This. The other ones.
I'm going to say something before Andrew gives us his. The first time he was opened his eyes to this album. But if anyone here in the chat does not own Led Zeppelin II, time out.
Yeah.
Morning, Hugh.
At least go to your Spotify and hit the heart button that you like it, and that'll get you out of timeout.
Yeah.
Hit the heart button.
We'll be monitoring you.
So Andrew,
is watching you.
when was your first Or when were your eyes open to this album? When your ears open to this album?
Oh, I was pretty lucky. I've mentioned this before. I had a couple of uncles, Uncle Eddie and Uncle Patrick, who were, rock and roll nuts, and they had this record collection. And I remember, again, so, people talk about high school, third form, fourth form, fifth form, for a lot of reasons. It could be girls or it could be music. For me, certainly it was rock music. That's where you discovered it all, that third, fourth and fifth form year. And Brad, when I heard this album, when I was in the fourth form, like everybody, I was just blown away by what I was hearing, because nothing that I was listening to on this album was being reflected back on standard radio back in the day. There was no such thing as classic radio. The classic radio that we were listening to in the 80s was music from the 50s and 60s, early 60s. There was no classic. So listening to the first track, for example, was just a thrill. But having said that, though, every year when we get information about this album, Brad and Simon, we're getting a lot more information from Jimmy Page. He's given us in his books and interviews. We get more of an insider interpretation of what was going on around that time and that whole 1968-69 period. I just love that. So when I go and hear it again, it just resonates with me just at another sort of deeper level. It's a little bit like transcendental meditation, those little rings, ding, 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 of the syllable that they give you, ding, 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 and it comes back, ding, 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 ding.
Blimey, we're now the official channel of TM.
Hey, if you love the Beatles, you got to know about TM, bro.
Yeah, man.
I was too scared to do LSD, so I did TM.
Are you sure that's quite the same thing? But
was one or the other.
Yogic flying, yes indeed. This I would like to see. And when Mr. Walton goes live on Facebook, when he's out in the New Zealand countryside, a bit of yogic flying to entertain us, I think, is the thing. So I look forward to that. Dear me. Fantastic.
Are we into it?
Yes.
Okay. Led Zeppelin II, released October 31st, 69 in America. It had advance orders, guys, of up to, from what I understand, 500,000 copies, which was huge, absolutely huge for that time of that time in history. It entered the Billboard chart at 15. And by the end of the year, it had dislodged one of our favourite albums, Brad, one of our favourite Beatles albums, Abbey Road, and it took top spot. And from what I understand, it was there for 7 weeks, which again is really, really important. So, when I was aware of that, I'm thinking, wow, this album's 7 weeks. This was popular music, Rock Professor.
Absolutely.
By April 1970, it had apparently registered 3 million American sales. And by... 3 million. I'm just reading my notes here, ladies and gentlemen. 3 million sales. What's interesting about this album, like the first album... unlike the first album, it's recorded at various locations. And I'll be interested to see what you guys have to say when you talk about the songs, because some people say that's reflected in the songs. I don't know. All I hear is some hybrid music styles, but I don't think that is a reflection of the different locations. And also, I suppose one of the great things about this album, it marked the emergence of Plant as a serious songwriter. But more importantly, Brad, it marked again, the defining album, the defining tone for this instrument, and I see you've got one back there as well, for the Gibson Les Paul. So,
Yeah.
an album that a lot of guitar players wanted to emulate the tone of. Am I correct?
Yeah. Who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Even on my EP, yeah, I'm putting my hand up and to my heart, this side. Yeah, I still to this day, when I'm recording, I hear Whole Lot of Love. That's the tone I want Les Paul wise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's just a great riff. And just
think-
one last paragraph, guys. Led Zeppelin II marks, the very creative period for the group. And we've spoken about this before, 2 albums, basically in 1 year. And it remains, for a lot of Van Halen fans, a nostalgic experience, and a high point for a band, that was, jeepers. At that time, Simon and Brad, they were touring extensively. They were a serious rock band. They weren't living in their English manners, for 9 months of the year, Simon. They were there for 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah. Well, interesting. They go and do a tour of America, then they come back and do a tour of the UK, then they go back to America again and do these these short, 4-week hops to America, do a load of dates, come back. It's as you say, a creative, but in really, they understood the way of breaking America. I think was to, you had to go there and gig, didn't you? To back up your what you put out, and instantly successful with that. And I think that touring thing, they understood that doing that touring thing, is what is going to break you in America, and they absolutely did it. It reminds me a bit, that sort of schedule reminds you a bit of what Joe Bonamassa does now. Goes out, does a tour, comes back, goes to Europe, does another tour, comes back, does a spring and an autumn tour in the States, and does then other things around that. It's just amazing. And then records an album. So I feel like he's sort of taken that model and sort of made it into a modern thing. But nevertheless, I think that's the model that they set up and decided to do. And I think that's Jimmy Page and Peter Grant, having a strategy. Because clearly they had a strategy as a band about what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, and went out and executed it perfectly. And as you say, sold a bucket load of albums, sold out, huge gigs, bigger than the Beatles gigs and stuff like that, and I think they really went into that stadium thing, didn't they, and sort of took over that stadium, started that kind of stadium rock thing.
Yeah,
awesome. Brad, you want to add anything to the intro there that you want to highlight, brother?
Very important thing that this is the first time they used Eddie Kramer on the record, and Eddie Kramer notes that obviously himself and Jimmy Page were very, very animated when they were on the desk, especially in Whole Lot of Love in that freak out section. I don't want to give too much away in my notes here, but Eddie Kramer, a big part of this record, even though it was recorded in numerous locations. That was a problem for Robert Plant, from my understanding, and something I read here. But in my opinion, there is a cohesiveness on this album, and I reckon, and even though Eddie Kramer said that Jimmy Page was the boss and he's the man, he was in charge, I still think Eddie Kramer might have brought that cohesiveness to the record because of his experience. See what I did there?
Yep.
Very good. Very good.
Anyway, that's all I can really think of to add to that too, guys. But great intro, Andrew.
Yeah, cheers, brother. Cheers. So let's kick off the rankings. So Whole Lot of Love, obviously, as Brad said, the masters Page and Kramer production on this, It's just fantastic, isn't it? You got plants off mic cough through the keep it coolin' baby squeals. It's 5 minutes and 33 seconds of an oral. And Brad, Simon, can we say this word? Sexual delight. It's got to
Careful.
be. It can't be anything other than that word. I'm gonna say it. And from what I understand, the song originally took shape around, Page's killer 3-note riff. That was basically where the song, Brad, as I understand, built from.
Yeah.
Just that riff. So again, that kind of freaks me out when I hear that. Like, check this out, guys. Just a simple riff, Simon, and they go and create this masterpiece. It's just amazing. Just give me 2 seconds here, guys. So, obviously for guitar players, it's in that natural, lovely key that we love. And that's one of the reasons why it sounds so good, because it's in the key of E. It's something that we can all hear, that we can all find on a guitar and play along with Brad. At some stage, all of us were trying to crack this riff, this riff somehow. I was one of them. Completely unique, in my opinion. This song is a masterpiece, Brad. It has a special place in the Zeppelin canon for me. I know that we keep hearing this song on classic radio, but I've put that aside from my mind, from my ears, Simon. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, in 69, if I was listening to this track, I'd be blown away. I can't give this track anything less than a Brad score. Brad.
I think, Brad, we should get you to show us how to play it properly.
Look, if I was wide up, I'd show you. But maybe we can do that another time, because all my leads and everything is still packed away from me. So
Don't worry. But just struck me. It would be fun.
There is a particular way to play it, like Pagey does, and it's to let that E note resonate while you're holding the D note when you're So it's I won't get too technical right now, because I want to get into the songwriting, but yeah, it's a unique way that Pagey plays, and that's all of his techniques are very unique. They're not your standard clean way of playing. He's very unique, and I'm sure even with Alan Garber's brought it to everyone's attention. His ability as a guitarist and what he used to do, his techniques and everything like that. It's just even to this day, I still study what he does, and I still can't perfect it, no matter. I still don't think anyone can play like Jimmy Page, and that's just what I think. People say this person does this, but I have to say Page is very unique. Not a lot of players play like him.
Yep.
Look, Whole Lot of Love, this main intro, it's inspired countless guitarists, including myself, Andrew, the rock professor, Slash, Joe Perry, Eddie Van Halen's even noted, Van Halen, blah, blah, blah. So we could go on. The list is very long. He's the guitar tone alone. This guitar tone alone has inspired many guitar players to pick up a Les Paul. Slash has just recently done something with Gibson TV, showing a lot of his guitars, and he talks about Whole Lot of Love tone, a tiny bit, and Jimmy Page's tone on Whole Lot of Love. That's what got him into playing guitar. I think why he wanted a Les Paul, yeah. And it's the same reason why I own a few. I've got a few of these damn things because of Jimmy Page and this riff, this song. Robert, I can't understate his ability. His vocals are amazing. I call it next level. His type of singing, next level. And his lyric take on the song is very sexy, and he's demanding attention because he wants to give every little inch of something to get your attention back. So he's demanding your attention with his vocal delivery. The guitar overdubs with the slide guitar that goes, "Want a whole lot of love." That's genius. In my opinion, Page was the master at overdubs and keeping it simple and doing what's effective and needed. the bass that doubles that riff is infectious. It's wet, it's fat, and it's woolly. It's everything you want to double that riff on bass guitar. When you listen to it in a car, the inside of the car rumbles because of that bass. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
That drumming from Bonzo is incredibly energetic. He's bombastic and the sound of the drums is incredible. I don't think in 1969 anyone captured drum tones like Led Zeppelin did, or John Bonham in particular. That's a really big part of Jimmy Page's producing, is why they captured the tone of his drums the way that they sounded in the room. At 1 minute 13, we hear that freak out section, which I was talking about, where Kramer and Jimmy Page were just turning dials, touching knobs, doing everything to get the over. And there's a incredible amount of overdubs going on. I think there's like tablet style drums. There's all sorts of things, congas maybe. I'm not sure about that, but there's a lot going on there. There's the panning, whoa, 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 the stuff that's going like this, and the ad lib vocals that Robert Plant puts in there, but all those things are freak out. It's just adds to the flavor. It's incredible. And when I hear the edited version, it's just not the same to me. It has to have this freak out section in the song. The drum roll that stops you in your track, and it goes into Page's guitar swaggery blues lead playing, where he goes, the part. Everyone knows the part. The accent section, I call it. That's incredible. From there, we hear some amazing vocals again. There's another breakdown, and what Robert Plant's doing in his vocal there is almost inhuman. I'll put it that way. Is not a lot of singers in this day and age can do anything like what Robert Plant could do. Even in this particular period of time, 1969, 1970, I don't think anyone was singing like Robert Plant. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anyone was. And I think he was an innovator. And I've heard a lot about Whole Lotta Love and Led Zeppelin II being a heavy metal text. I don't think it is. I'm going to shoot that down in flames. I think Black Sabbath were more that. They were like the innovators of heavy metal. These guys were they were really pushing power, and that supergroup thing came from Led Zeppelin, in my opinion. Look, Bonzo's drum fills throughout the song, including the outro, they're just truly inspiring. And, look, if there was only one song that you could play for someone that's never heard of Led Zeppelin, I think this is it. It's a masterpiece. 1,000 out of 10. Whatever you want to say. It's the highest score you can possibly give.
Yeah, I should think so. Yeah, so I mean, absolutely. I think that some things I'd say. I think that echoing what Hugh Caldwell said, that if you listen to Page's isolated tracks, it's amazing how clean the guitar is. That guitar pretty much straight into a Marshall. It is the sound, or a high one possibly, but is the sound you're getting. Yeah, and it's not. It's not. I agree with you, Brad. It's not heavy metal, is it? To me, none of this is heavy metal. It's rock certainly. Heavy metal, I think, is a world away from what I would describe as heavy metal. I've never thought of Led Zeppelin as a heavy metal band in any way, shape, or form. To be honest,
no.
The quintessential rock band for sure. And I think that but I don't think that that the sounds of the guitar, they are, they're not what I would call them. I agree with you that I think the Black Sabbath is where that real doomy kind of sound comes from Tony Iommi.
Doing them next week.
The mighty Tony Iommi. I mean, absolutely think that that's where that comes from, and not from Jimmy Page at all. Where you can see the line of his sound through through the Yardbirds and then into here, and it's not a heavy metal thing. But it is it isn't a great sound, a sound that he makes that is all him. I think his production on this, and this is him. This is definitely Page and Kramer. Page's vision and Kramer helping him technically to deal with it as a. I think it's as you say, Brad. All those the guitar overdubs and the freak out section are testament to Page's creativity in one being able to think up these things and then execute them and do them, record them, knowing what to record, what to do, what parts you're going to have. It's amazing when I go back and if you start thinking about it in those terms, it's to me it becomes more amazing that he produced something so original and so different to anything that anybody else was doing within the confines. Clearly in 1969 rock music is opening up into a whole new world of sound, what you can do. Yes, Robert, he was. So I think it's amazing. I think that this is Robert Plant using his voice as an instrument, another instrument in the band. It is not only about singing, it's about, and I think that one of the things that I noticed through, particularly The Song Remains the Same, I know this came up, and then, is how much of an instrument Robert Plant uses his voice as. It's not just singing. It's not just, clearly he's a great singer and, the quintessential rock frontman. And I think which most other, going forward, most other rock frontmen have modeled themselves on in many ways. So, yes, Robert, you're to blame. But it's an extraordinary track, and I think it still holds up to me. The sound of it still holds up. As you said, Bonham's drumming, when he comes in and that just playing behind, just that playing off the beat, that thing that just seemingly so unique to him, and so it makes it swing and kind of just gives it that kind of that real groove that I think he does better than anybody. Frankly, in my world, he does anyway. That groove is so him. And John Paul Jones is I think one of the things of this album that struck me is what a great bass player he is. He knows when to play, when not to play, when to go up the neck, when to just drop back on thing. He's just absolutely that kind of intuitive session musician thing of knowing what to play and when to play it. That you can't. I don't know if you can teach it. You can possibly learn it, but he's an absolute master of that. And I think on this record, he's an absolute master as well. Clearly, Whole Lot of Love is anybody in the UK who's ever watched, the 70s, 80s version, in fact, most of the versions of Top of the Pops, that was the soundtrack. It was an instrumental, soundtrack recorded by Alexis Corner. That was used as the soundtrack to, ironically used as the soundtrack to Top of the Pops, seeing as they never had a single in the UK, and yet they had a single on Top of the Pops every single week in the titles, the title song. And to me, if you haven't heard it, everyone's heard it. Go and investigate it. It's it's a Brad score. Of course, it's a Brad score. It's there is no, but what is rock? Well, it's this. In a nutshell, in 5 minutes, that's what it is, and you can't say fairer than that. It is one of their classics. It is it's a contender for the greatest riff in rock, isn't it? Surely it's got to be up there, isn't it? You only got to play 1 second of it, and you'll know what it is. If you've ever heard it before. So it's a Brad score for me. Of course it is. It couldn't be anything else.
Awesome, guys. So everybody, what's your opinion of this track too? We don't see any scores in the chat. We'd love to see your scores. Before I get on to the next song, I just also want to do a special shout out to Hugh and Johnny Heartbreaker for being channel members here on the channel and helping us as well too. So thank you very much for that. The Rock Professor and Simon have done well on the opening tracks. I think you're right though. this genre of riff bass rock certainly started. If you're looking for a genesis point, it's going back to this album and to this song, and the Brad and the Rock Professor have given enough ample evidence to prove that. The second song, What Is and What Should Never Be, Brad. From the opening tracks, you couldn't offer a more stark contrast to the opening track. Plant's got this lovely voice timbre going on. You've got Bonham floating on the cymbals, John Paul Jones doing his magical stuff, Simon, and you've got Page strumming along, like he's at a campfire and someone's roasting marshmallows, and I read somewhere that someone said that if someone was standing outside Brad or the Rock Professor's bedroom in 1969 listening to this album, and if they heard this song, Mum and Dad would go, actually, this Led Zeppelin band's not bad after all, this is okay. Let Brad and Simon carry on. Okay, whether or not that was deliberately put there, we don't know. I will say this though, Led Zeppelin definitely a band of contrasts, definitely, and we're going to see that a little bit more on some of the other songs. Rock Professor, interesting that early on we're getting that acoustic kind of vibe coming through, which will dominate, a lot of other classic Led Zeppelin songs to come after this album. So, if this is a signpost or a gateway, people didn't know it back then in '69, but we certainly know it now, don't we? It's a masterpiece of a song. Brad, I can't give it a Brad score. I love the song. It's never a skip. I love the contrast, Rock Professor. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10. Never a skip. Brad.
Time out, maybe?
Yes. Yeah. We've got to affect outrage that Mr. Walls has only given it 8.5 out of 10.
Oh no, I've got some other. Come on. Because there's some other songs on here which are just pretty, Yeah.
Look, I'm going to try and raise the bar a bit on this one. No, listen, 8.5 is still a fair score. I'm joking. Look, What Is and What Should Never Be. For me, this song, even the first time I heard it, it was just like, it took me back, that little wonderful, delicate vocal that leads the song in. I was like, ooh, from the first song to that, I was like, wow. It's a wonderful lesson in light and shade. So any musicians that watch this channel, this is a particular song that I think is a wonderful example of adding light and shade to a song. There's some very laid-back musicianship from Page, Jones, and Bonzo at the start. Then there's the song kicks in. There's that fantastic bass line from John Paul Jones. He just plays fantastically on this song. When the song takes off on that heavier feel, there's some fantastic vocals there. And may I add, there's some beautiful BVs there. And I'm not sure whether it's Robert Plant plus Jimmy Page and Jonesy. I'm not sure if they're singing BVs on it or whether it's John Bonham as well. I'm not sure, but there's some wonderful BVs there. That slide solo, it's beautifully executed. Wonderful slide player Jimmy Page is. And if you really listen to some of the bass line underneath what is going on there while Page is playing that slide, there's some fluid bass playing there, but he never misses the 1 and he never misses the 3. He's always there with John Bonham. He always hits the 1 and the 3, and he never loses that feel on the bass, even though he's moving around. He's a wonderful bass player, and I don't think he's underrated as a bass player. But even today, I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does. I think he needs more credit for his bass playing on all Zeppelin stuff.
Yep.
We hear, I love that panning guitar section where after the slide section, then it does that dun 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 dun. That's after another verse, mind you. But that is fantastic, and I've done a cover version of this song with my original band, Smother, and we actually recorded it in a studio, and I tried to match the panning, and it's wonderfully done. John Paul Jones really shines on this song, in my opinion. Robert Plant, he's really found his vocal approach by this album, and the recording of this song is a perfect example of that. I have to say, listening to this album, and by the time you got to the second song, you realize how fresh this album still sounds. It's not dated. It doesn't sound like it's done in 1969 to me. It sounds like it's a fairly modern recording, and that's a credit to Jimmy Page and Eddie Kramer. Look, I love the song. Personally, it's one of my favorites on the album. I absolutely love it. So I've given it 100 out of 10. It's never a skip for me, guys.
Yeah, I'm with you, Brad. That Mr. Walton, 8.5 out of 10. Frank,
he's in a
Mr.
little bit of trouble.
Ashamed of yourself. Yeah, you should be ashamed of yourself. Brad, I'm with you on this. I think that it's, if the first track is a manifesto of this album, the second track's a manifesto too, in that it's not anything like the first track. And I think that one of the things we know about Led Zeppelin is that variety, that we're not going to be stuck in a single genre. We're not going to be stuck doing a single thing. It's going to be all sorts, and I think that a lot of albums made in this period were like that. They had that variety. Nobody thought that was a, these days you'll get, an album will have a sound and it'll have a homogeneity about it, which, I think, that was not part of the plan in 69 when they were doing this. It was, I've got all these songs and it's what they needed to be, to flower as songs. And, it's not about the same guitar tone all the way through. It's not about the same guitar. It's not about anything. It's just about what can I do with this song? What's the arrangement? What's the yeah. Nice one, Holly. So I think that, that it's really important, this track, that because it is such a contrast to track one and it is such a difference. And as I say, it says, by the way, that first track, yeah, but this next track, something completely different. And, this is what the album is going to be like. It's going to have a variety of things on it, huge variety, huge variety of sounds, textures, techniques, dynamics, and all made by this extraordinary band. And it's this track has great drumming as ever from Bonzo. You just can't. I know you keep saying it on every bloody track. It's just boring, but it's true. For me, the greatest rock drummer. The swing, the power. He had all of it in spades, and as you've said, he's recorded fantastically. The album is recorded really, really well. Jimmy Page really knew what he was doing, and I've, certainly then, he's still, he is the mastermind. He is, and I think he's a genius. I do. I think that to be able to play like he plays, like nobody else, to be able to do this, all that improvisation, have all those ideas, to understand how to record, so you get the tones that fit in with a track. It's not just having a tone, but it's going, I know where this tone fits and I understand it in the great, in the scheme of the sonic landscape. What does that even mean? Anyway, but so I think that, it's it, and of course, John Paul Jones is fantastic bass playing as well. Make these songs into something, really super and, and huge and majestic and, and creatively great. So I'm giving this 10 out of 10 and never a skip as well, because I think it it does the it in terms of the listening of the album, it does the job of saying, you went over there, now we're going over here. Wait to see what happens next, kids. So that's why I'm giving it 10, because
Awesome. I agree with you, Holly. I don't think there was anyone using that falsetto scream in rock music before Plant. Brad, rock professor, can you think of anybody?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe. Well, I don't know. When's because Roger Daltrey is the other one that springs to mind. I don't
He
think
was well in the
69.
70s. Well in the
Yeah,
70s when he was doing that, wasn't he? When he was screaming.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, probably, yeah. I can't think of anybody particularly. I mean, it'll be around the same time, I suppose. But
Hey, Charlie.
yeah.
Good to see
Morning,
you.
Charlie. Good to see you. Yeah, interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's rock and roll and controversy got to do? A lot. Rock and roll without controversy, Brad and Simon, wouldn't be rock and roll. And the next song certainly had a little bit of controversy. You know, the Lemon song. The track, as we know, was originally credited to Page, Plant, Jones, and Bonham. But claims from the publishers Dual Music that the song was heavily based on Chester Barnett, also known as who?
Howling Wolf.
Howling Wolf.
Yes, Howling Wolf.
We passed the test, Brad.
Yes. Yeah. If you two had said Muddy Waters, you know, or Robert Johnson,
Well, he borrows from Robert Johnson in this a little bit.
oh, okay, all right then.
Borrows a little bit.
I would. Yes.
Good on you. Good on Brad dug himself out of any potential holes. Good on you, brother. His classic song "Clean Floor" became obvious, didn't it? And one of the great things about Led Zeppelin as a business, as a band, they settled out of court. They needed to do that, and every album that was published after that included Chester Burnett as the songwriter, which is admirable for the band. We have to get that part of this out of the way, and I'm sure my co-hosts might have other bits to add to that. I don't see that as being a controversy at all. It was just the way that it happened, I think, and people borrow. And again, I'll leave a little bit of that space for my co-hosts. But what's really interesting, Rock Professor and Simon, about the third song on this album is that it's the third song in a row that's in the key of E. And normally you don't have that. You don't have 3 or 4 songs, in a row in the key of E. And I think this is one of the reasons why we like that as guitar players, as rock musicians, because we're not being jolted too much from the tonal difference. We're listening to everything on the same plane. And I certainly think that is a valid point. And whether we're consciously aware of that or not, I don't know, but think about that next time you go and listen to this song. Let me just go here. So, Brad, the Lemon song for me stands above the crowd. That exceptionally mesmerizing climbing riff that we hear, and it's intersectionally composed in its form. Just goes to show the genius of Jimmy Page as a composer with the guitar. You can see that he's clearly in love with this instrument, and he's making it do things that we haven't heard of up until that time, and we're still stunned today when we go and hear this song. That climbing riff is just fantastic. It's certainly, if you want to get a point of where hard rock began, Rock Professor, we're getting it on this song. For me, for me, Brad and Simon, I when I heard the song when I was a 14-year-old boy, Brad, it just blew me away, and it still does today. When I advertised the fact that we were doing this on Instagram, I picked the intro from the Lemon song for a reason. It's a Brad score for me. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. I know the song has had a bit of been nudged by a lot of people over the years. Some people have called it too simplistic, but for me, it encapsulates everything that Led Zeppelin is up until this point on this album. I'm blown away. It's a Brad score. Brad.
Well, let's just say there's plenty of lemon squeezing and juices flowing in this song. Right?
Look at that.
I got no idea what you're talking about, man.
So, as a young lad
thing,
hearing
anyway?
this, I was like, oh, wow. Now, it's obviously, if you're familiar with Killing Floor, that there is similarities there. The riff in particular is something that I think is fairly unique, though. And
Yep.
I love the guitar playing from Page on this. That intro, that choked up sort of thick tone that he's got, it's fantastic. And, Robert's voice in this is amazing as well. I think, Bonzo, John Bonham, he plays with such amazing feel in this song, and his ability to play dynamically is what made him so amazing, in my opinion. Look, the real amazing thing about this song for me, the very first time I heard it, though, was John Paul Jones. His bass playing is just absolutely brilliant. I mean, you could be mistaken at times wondering if it's a blues song or whether there's a bit of Motown going on. There's a lot going on there, a lot of movement from John Paul Jones throughout this song, and brilliantly, not overplaying it, just suits the song and perfectly. Page's guitar solos on the song are blistering. Around that 3-minute mark, the song breaks down and really highlights John Paul Jones. And, Robert Plant is singing. John Paul Jones is playing very melodically and very fluidly moving around, but he's so tight with John Bonham. Bonzo's playing really straight, and Jones is just moving around that 1 and the 3, and he's really locked into it. But it's like you could mistake him playing for Stevie Wonder or something like that. He's playing blues, but he's playing Motown as well. It's amazing. So then you've got Robert with his juice running down his leg, and Page's call response playing over the top of that amazing rhythm section. There's like that true blues tradition going on here, but it's not true blues either. It's a bit hard to describe what it is. I'm going to call it blues on steroids. That's what I've always pictured this sort of music as. Look, I have to say this. If there's a rhythm section based here in Melbourne that plays as well as Bonzo and Jonesy do together on this track, please slide in my DMs immediately, all right? Slide in my DMs. I have to say a big well done to John Paul Jones on this track. It's one of my favourite songs featuring John Paul Jones, and I can't give it any less than 100 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10. For me, this is a very important song in Led Zeppelin's, catalogue. 100%.
Canon, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I couldn't agree more. Yes, John ZD341 is confused because he thought we were doing Heaven and Hell, which is next week, John. I know,
Yeah,
Mr.
it's not his
Wilson.
fault. It's my mistake because he was on a show earlier with me, and we were talking about the contrast between Eddie and other guitarists, and Tony Iommi came to my mind, and I said, we're going to be doing him later today. So sorry, John. Come back next week. Bugger off. Off you go. Come back next week.
And relax, John. Yes, don't panic. We haven't quite lost it. Well, so I agree. I think that with everything you said, it's a great riff, isn't it? And that kind of stutter when he goes into the 5 chord, just to kind of hanging back a bit. He's not quite pushing it in the same way he's done, in say A Whole Lot of Love. This kind of just taking it back a bit, and just in terms of where he's playing, in relation to the beat. I agree with you about John Paul Jones. It's just amazing bass playing, and in that quiet section, if you want to know what the definition of swinging funky drumming is, that is the definition of swinging funky. Go and listen to that. But Bonham's just doing it. It's just, to me, it's just gets me every time. It's still every time I listen to it. The last week, and it's just, you just go, God, that is just so funky and swinging. It's just, absolutely nailing it in a way. I know I go on about it. A few other drummers can do, like that. And if you want to know what the essence of that swinging funky drumming is, there it is in that bit with John Paul Jones. Great dynamics in it, and that change of speed for the solo as well. Again, the dynamics thing that they used so effortlessly. Of course it's a 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10. It's just, I'm not giving it a churlish 8 out of 10. It can't be, because it's one of their staples live. It's a fantastic, rendition of it. It kind of, changes it up from the, it's different from the Hendrix version, different from the Howling Wolf version, and makes some of it their own. Is it in terms of, the stealing of it or whatever? I mean, yeah, clearly they need to, they need to say, where it came from. But I think, that all those blues songs that we know, that were taken from other blues songs that we, and taken from other blues songs, and, and metamorphosed and changed into, things as well. So I don't think they're in any way unique or anything else to do with those things, But they made reparation. I think that's fine. So yes,
awesome.
Yes, another fantastic. And could I say the contrast? This is the first, what I would call straight blues rock, song on the album. So we've got contrast going, on the first 3 tracks, that really say this is an album of, variety, contrasts, dynamics. Yes, 100 out of 10. Andrew.
Come back next week, John, and we'll do Heaven and Hell. I guarantee you that'll be a cracker of a show too. Been listening to that album too this week as well, and boy, what a great album! So if you guys haven't heard Heaven and Hell, go and check it out. Thank you. It's a Page Plant song, ladies and gentlemen. I am happy to let you know that. Gosh, what an emotional song this is. Plant sung the song, to his wife, and it brings out the best in a man, and certainly brings out the best in Robert Plant, because he's committed onto tape one of the finest vocal performances that he's ever done. In this arrangement, we've got John Paul Jones excelling, Rock Professor and Brad on the Hammond organ, and he goes on and on later on in other albums with this. So, we're getting the start of it, and then you've got Jimmy, of course, Brad, doing some beautiful, I think from my research, some delicate touches with the Rickenbacker 12-string. Guys, again, we're getting a contrast, aren't we? Again, a band that's very, very clever in doing that. Whether this is Kramer's involvement or not, boy, I just love it. I think it's fantastic the way that it's placed. I'm not going to give this a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite performances by Plant. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. It's never a skip. And the only reason why, guys, is because it's my favorite Led Zeppelin album, and I'm being extra specially, I want to give my Brad scores
judiciously
to get me in, past St. Peter, what it says, those Brad scores he gave on that album were real ones. Good on you, bro. And you come.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for that intro. That was great. No, you've done a great ranking of the song. Look, thank you. It's another changing gear from the last song, and the the last song of side one. I absolutely adore this song. It's fantastic. From the chimey guitar intro, that organ, the drums to the delicate vocal from Robert. It's absolutely beautiful. I love the chorus. Always gives me goosebumps, this song. There's something about it. Robert's lyrics are soulfully written and sung with complete feel and love and emotion. And you can certainly feel that, as Andrew highlighted in his delivery of the vocal take. It definitely is one of my favourite vocals of Robert Plant of all, anything he's ever done. That section where he goes "you" to me at around 2:38, I'm not even going to try and interpretate it for you guys. It certainly sends shivers up my spine every time. Wonderful acoustic guitar solo. John Bonham's drumming again is dynamic, and his wonderful feel really holds this song down tight. Look, if you're ever lucky enough to meet a woman in your life that makes you feel these lyrics, you'll know and feel how important this song is. And it's one of my all-time favorite love songs, alongside of Something by the Beatles. I have to give it 1,000 out of 10. This album's a difficult one for me to rank without sounding silly, but I have to give it more than 10. It's definitely up there. Rock Professor.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think that, again, that contrast with the previous song, that kind of all out blues kind of rock thing of the Lemon song, now into this delicate kind of 12-string acoustic, and Hammond organ and stuff. It's just I think that the thing that, everyone talks about Led Zeppelin riffs, but I think that the other thing that is, man, they got some tunes, they got some melodies, haven't they? They know how to write a fantastic melody, and I think it's, that one of the most important things, I think, that is probably overlooked is that thing about having it, I've got this song and I've got this fantastic melody, and makes it, and we can make it very moving and a very emotional song as well. And I think that that's what they managed to do, never mind the bombast, never mind supposedly the bombast and all of that stuff, I think that, and the swagger, you can take it down to this, a little 4-piece playing, and, and to have the confidence to do it. I think that's, that to me is what comes through as well. The confidence to say, we're going to have a acoustic, quite a delicate acoustic song on this. It's not going to be, all out, it's going to be a contrast to the previous song. It's going to be probably, definitely the folkiest thing on side one, but definitely has that folk element in it that, hasn't been much in evidence in the previous 3 tracks. So yeah, it gives Robert. It's not always about lemon squeezing. It absolutely isn't. But I think it's for me. It's, as you say, Brad. It's a beautiful song. For me, it has to be a 10. It's boring but true. I think this is as perfect a side of an album as I can come up with, really. To be honest,
Agree.
and I think that is a tribute to their ability, their talent, but also, oh, by the way, Andrew, the engineer on this was Andy Johns, not
Correct.
Eddie Kramer. There were 4 engineers on the album, I think. I've just had a quick look. George Chikiantz, Chris Houston, Andy Johns, and Eddie Kramer. So Eddie Kramer did about half of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's who I meant. Thank you.
Yes, Andy Johns. So, but I think Andy John's the engineer, but the vision again is Jimmy Page. Who's ability to understand. And as you've said, the kind of the 12-string acoustic, and then the slightly different acoustic sound when he sings "Little Drops of Rain." Stuff is just you just know that's Page. Putting the touches, and making them. Making the dynamics of the song, keeping you interested as a listener. It's just, I find it sort of awe-inspiring, really, that whatever it is, 52 years, 53 years later, we're still going, this is such a great record. It so is. So apologies if it's another 10 out of 10 from me. I don't know where else to go with it, to be honest. Well, you can only say what moves you and what you think of that song, and as you say, gives you, I still listen to it, and it's still a thrilling song to listen to.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Awesome.
So, yes, Mr. Walton, get me out of this.
We're at the stage of the show, ladies and gentlemen, where we are going to show some pics, and we would like to recognise again the sponsors for this segment of the show. Those two fine looking gentlemen there. That's our clickbait, ladies and gentlemen. Channel orientated, channel inspired, not lifted off any other YouTube channels.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. Right. So one of the reasons why I love this album, I'm going to show some pics, guys. One of the reasons why I love this album, look, this T-shirt's 20 years old. Yeah, I love the album cover. There's just something about Led Zeppelin's album covers and Led Zeppelin II, the way that they have incorporated this historic photograph here from World War I into this wonderful album cover. Brad and Simon and everybody in the chat is just phenomenal. I love it. One of the best album covers ever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Very cool.
There's a pic there of Jimmy in the studio, and like we said at the beginning of the show, ladies and gentlemen, we'll attach a link where Alan Garber was on a show with us, and he went into some detail explaining everything that Page was using in the studio to record this album. So we do, if you're watching on a replay, if you haven't seen that, that's one of our gems. You need to go and check that out, please.
Yeah,
Can
definitely.
you highlight how high Jimmy Page has got his guitar there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much of the swagger in the studio. And also, look at the lead straight into the amp.
Yep.
Yes, not this wandering about on the floor nonsense.
I grabbed this quote, guys, for us to read. Can you see that, Rock Professor?
Yes, I can. Yeah, it's very big on my iPad. It's beautiful. Shall I read it out?
Can you read that?
Yeah. So Jimmy Page said, I played the Les Paul on Whole Lotta Love and What Is and What Should Never Be. And that decided it for me. It was definitely going to be the Les Paul from then on. I always wanted to make a change for each album sonically, and that was my first decision for Led Zeppelin II. Like I had built Led Zeppelin around the Fender Telecaster, I built the second album around the sonic texture of the Les Paul Standard. Neither Joe Walsh or I realised at the time just what an important thing he had done by coming along with that Les Paul. Yes, if anybody doesn't know, Joe Walsh gave Jimmy Page the Les Paul. Well, he got it from Joe Walsh. He probably paid money for it. And there it is, number one.
There it is. There, that's the number one, Brad. And there's another one of our favourite guitarists. There's in the back
RV
there.
in the background. Yes.
Ray. Yep.
Yep. And there's another picture of Mr. Page in the studio with it.
Again, not around his ankles anymore in the studio. Obviously, just all the parts, wanted to make sure they're all perfect, I'd say.
Yep. And it's got the original tuners on there too. So, so these are some pics, guys, from 68, 69. So what's really interesting is that, Page, from what I understand, was playing that Telecaster right up until they went into the studio with the Les Paul. So, it wasn't as if like he'd just tossed it away. It was definitely being played. That's from 69.
Yeah.
Look how tight and close they are, guys.
100%.
Yeah. Mm.
Great pictures.
Yeah, great
That's
pictures.
another,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Whose
Sits him on
roller
a
is that, do you
jag.
think? Was it a jag?
That's
It's
a
a
jag,
jag.
Mr. Walton. That's a jag. Yes. No idea. It's
And there
probably
they are
Peter
there.
Grant's.
Notice Brad and Rock Professor, the tuners.
Yeah, they've changed.
Yeah,
Really?
Yep.
Has he put Clousons on them? Is that Clousons?
yeah. So
Very,
it's got the
Good spot.
very observant there, Andrew.
So he's basically changed those tuners pretty
From recording.
quickly, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think what he's done is he's played it in the studio and it's had stability, but when he's taken the guitar out on the road, Brad, you know, those Grovers are going to give more tuning stability when you're out performing live.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's said in the past. That's one of the reasons why he, you know, changed them, apparently.
Did he? Is it changed from Clousons to Grovers? Or Grovers to Clousons? I can never remember.
From
which.
Clousons to Grovers.
To Grovers. Yeah, I mean, I think that was quite a standard thing in those days, wasn't it? To upgrade to Grovers, as you say, Andrew, for the greater tuning stability of it. But
Now, Brad,
Mm.
what's going on here? There's something pretty interesting going on here, Brad.
I'm trying to work out what.
Me too. Yeah.
Mr. Look how low his Les Paul is, bro.
Dropped it. Yeah, he's definitely dropped it. But look at Rob Plant's face. I'm trying to work out what he's trying to do there.
He's just had a toke, I think.
You reckon?
He's got one in his hand. He's got a fag in it. He's got a fag on. Yes.
Yeah. No, his guitar's definitely dropped a bit.
Yeah. So there's something, you know, going on around 69. You know, there's, you know, definitely some big changes. So, and
getting the rock swagger on.
And there he is in the studio again, the same time, and again it's a little bit lower, Brad. So
maybe he was playing some intricate parts on that where he had the guitar a bit higher.
Yeah, the strap is stretching due to the weight.
And ladies and gentlemen,
Nice.
I think that's about it. But I just want to ask people in the chat what do they think of this album cover? Is it one of the best, or am I the only one that just thinks that's
No, I like the album cover too.
really cool?
Yeah,
I do.
They're great because they stand out and kind of, you know, that kind of intimation of the band of brothers thing, isn't it? You know, with the in amongst the First World War fighter pilots and things.
Being an Englishman, you know, again, I love these English cats. You know, they could have mimicked a photo from the Royal Flying Corps. You know, they could have done that. But no, they stuck with the Zeppelin, you know, the German theme by going to the, you know, clearly, you know, the German, well, they weren't called the Luftwaffe back then.
No, not called them the German Air Force. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Again, you know,
in 1969, it was a bit more emotive than possibly it is now. But, you know, it's only 25 years after the end of the Second World War. So it's... You know,
great photos, Andrew. Thank you for sharing those.
Cheers, brothers. Cheers.
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
We're rocking and rolling. Hold on,
Side 2.
Side 2. We're on side 2.
Side 2.
Okay. All right. So, Heartbreaker. Brad, what can I say? You know, yet another perfect guitar riff. It's repetitive. It's not long, it's not too short, it's not too fast, it's not too slow, and more importantly, it's easy for a young guitar player like me trying to impress other cats what's going on with rock and roll. And I nailed it. I nailed it, Brad. I nailed it. But also, Brad, you know, this has something And if you're watching this, John Paul Jones, by any chance, this one. This one has something for bass players too. The tone that Jones uses and that is monstrous, and it's it's a shame. It's a shame, Brad, that he didn't duplicate this tone on other songs. In my opinion, the main riff obviously is what we know, Brad and Rock Professor, to be the blues scale. So it's not one of the great things about the song, guys, is it's not complex in its core, and that's one of the great things that this album gave. It gave an opportunity for bedroom guitarists, jammers, to go out there and replicate what they were hearing, and this is a prime candidate of a song. I'm going to leave a little bit more room for my other co-hosts to talk about this. But this song can't be anything other than a Brad score. It's again, it's one of the most perfect guitar riffs ever. Brad.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Andrew. Look, the Heartbreaker, it's a very cool bluesy intro riff from Page, and it's in A, so it's like a blues in A. And it's doubled by Jonesy on the bass as they come in. Once Robert Plant starts singing, he wants his fellas to listen to what he's saying. Hey, fellas, have you heard the news? Annie's back in town. His voice is just fluid, his voice is fluid. It floats across that grunting bass chord from John Paul Jones. It's like he's playing a bass chord or something, and it's fairly heavily distorted or something. There's something quite unique going on, like Andrew said, about that bass tone, and it's fantastic. There's some great overdub guitars from Page, and the panning guitars are exciting. The bit where he goes dun 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 dun, dun, like at those little accenting sections that pan, it just gives that excitement to the song. The song has some very swinging drums from Bonzo, John Bonham. This is obviously when he performed this live, he obviously took it a little bit further with his drumming, but I kind of like how John Bonham plays on the recorded version of this as well. He certainly goes at it at times, but he's very much about the song in this, John Bonham is. And around the 2 minutes in, we hear Jimmy's highlight, the solo. I believe the solo was done after the main recording, so it was an addition. That this wasn't recorded in one succession, so they recorded the start and the finish together, and then Jimmy Page went back in and did this guitar solo, which is, in my opinion, it's probably, I may be wrong, one of the first isolated guitar solos with no other instrumentation. So he goes off and he plays a guitar solo. Now, the interesting thing for you tech heads, anyone who's interested, is it's not completely tuned to A in this section, so he's slightly off key to the rest of the song in the solo. You can't really tell unless you're really playing along with it and you tune to standard tuning. You really notice it then when you're trying to replicate some of what Page is doing. He shows us some stellar techniques in his arsenal. In the solo, he's got a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs. He's got fluttering fast notes and some beautiful bending, some soulful bending. The song kicks back in once the solo's over, and Jimmy Page is playing over the top of that rhythm section and what's going on. And obviously, Page has recorded some rhythm guitars there as well. There's some real Scotty Moore vibes there. And if anyone doesn't know Scotty's Elvis Presley's guitarist, who was one of Jimmy Page's heroes, and but still sounds like Jimmy Page to me. Doesn't sound like Scotty Moore, but they just captured that vibe of Scotty Moore. Great drumming and bass playing through that section as well, and vocally outstanding from Robert Plant. The main highlight of this, for me, this song is the guitar. Jimmy Page, thank you for this song. It's inspired so many guitarists. Eddie Van Halen, he's noted as, in particular, his finger tapping technique he took from watching Jimmy Page play this hammer-on pull-offs, and he just started moving where the open nut was, moving that up the fretboard. So it effectively helped Eddie Van Halen along the way with his tapping techniques. But again, it's inspired Slash, Joe Perry, Brad Cook. It's
well done.
Andrew Walton, the rock professor. It's inspired us all. It's inspired us all in so many ways. I personally, I've spent many, many, many hours studying this as a young guy, and the countless live versions on bootlegs that I've got in my youth. This probably had the biggest effect on me as a guitar player when it came to learning techniques and learning how to play lead guitar. So again, I've got to give it, 100 out of 10. Never a skip for me. Rock professor.
Good score. Good score.
Yeah. Well, yes, I mean, clearly, opening track to side 2, you couldn't do better than that swagger, can you? Down, straight in, and Bonzo straight in behind him. I think, that one of the things that we haven't talked about, I think we should remember this, that came out in those pictures, that, the basic tracks are recorded by a band playing together in the studio. Absolutely laying down the basic tracks, and then Page, does his kind of sprinkling his magic over the top. Clearly this is a kind of showcase for Jimmy Page's skills, isn't it? His guitar skills, and that fantastic, just, no other instrumentation, just that amazing guitar solo that is just there on its own, as a separate section. Do the stop, it's like that complete stop before he comes back in with the guitar solo. It's kind of, even then you've got to have some confidence to just stop and have silence, haven't you? Like that.
Yep.
And I've said it a lot on here before, but that thing about, you, in those days, you're recording and making decisions based on purely on your ears and not on your eyes like you do now. I wonder if that would have survived in quite the same way, that gap and the space that's just been given, and whether somebody were going, oh, we should put stuff on that, when actually the great joy of it is that it is just Jimmy Page, just absolutely going for it. And I've said it on here before, but that one of the things that amazes me about him is, yes, that's right, John, it sounds like he's falling down the stairs, that he just off the cliff. He's just, I'm just going off and I'm just going to give it everything, and to me, that's one of the most amazing things about the way that he plays, is that he just, never mind the odd mistake, never mind the odd glitch, I'm just absolutely going for it in a way that, it's not going for perfection, it's going for feel, it's going for, all of that in preference to it being perfect, and I'm always impressed by that. I always think that it gives it, clearly it's live, he's just done it, whistled through it. I don't know if there's an edit in it, but it sounds to me like it's just live and going through it, and I'm just massively impressed that somebody can just do that in a studio with that amount of, just carefree way of just being able to do it. And I think that it's it's an amazing track. It's always been one of my favorites, Heartbreaker, absolutely always. Doesn't, what's brilliant about it also, it doesn't outstay its welcome, does it? Doesn't go on for 10 minutes. It just, it's in, does what it's supposed to do, and out again. It's a 100 out of 10, 1,000 out of 10. It's a Brad score. I can't go anywhere else with this. I'm going home. All my things so far have been at least 10 out of 10. I feel slightly guilty. I don't know what to say, really, but
I appreciate it.
Guys,
critical faculties have gone.
Is that probably the first unaccompanied guitar solo ever recorded, or am I wrong there? Maybe someone might be able to bring it's recorded.
Good question.
I think to my knowledge, in at least in classic rock music, I think it might have been one of the first. Anyway, Andrew.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you're right. What wonderful analysis and offerings, obviously, ladies and gentlemen, from my co-hosts. And again, nice to see people in the chat contributing. Thank you, Holly, for your outstanding contributions and support to the channel too. It's always appreciated. And if you're watching on a replay, let us know what you think of this album and some of the tracks too. Living, Loving Maid. She's just a woman. Okay, from my understanding, Brad, Jimmy returned to the Telecaster to knock this out. And from, again, my research, the band always considered this album a bit of a production line filler. And that's okay. That's just the way it is. But what's really interesting about the song is that it's got a nice tight hook. And again, from my research, Simon, radio liked the song. It became the flip side of A Whole Lot of Love. So it gained its own momentum, even though the band kind of had a different opinion of the song at the time. So again, isn't it interesting how rock and roll, and again, what radio can do with a song, and we've seen this before with other songs and other albums that we've done, that it was never really something that they thought. I'm not saying that it went on to be a great song, Brad. I'm not saying that at all, but, it gained its own special momentum. And because of that, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's got an interesting kind of story about it. It's rumoured to be about some West Coast groupies, whoever or whatever they are. We don't know. But I like the song. It fits in well, and as the rock professor will agree, side one, an album of contrasts. So why wouldn't you do something like that on side two? Why change a winning formula? 9 out of 10.
For sure.
Brad.
With a purple umbrella and a 50-cent hat.
Fantastic.
I've always loved this. I've loved that line. I think it's just such a cool way to start the song. But look, it's a killer riff. I reckon it's fantastic. I've always liked this song, despite rumors that some members of Led Zeppelin saying they didn't necessarily like it. Some great bass playing from John Paul Jones. The drumming from John Bonham is great. It swings in those little pre-chorus bits. It's got that nice little guitar thing going on. I'm like during those sections I'm talking about with the swing. I love the BVs in the song, and the short little guitar solo from Jimmy Page. It's all class. It suits the song perfectly. Thanks to the groupie that inspired this song. No complaints from me about the song. 10 out of 10 for me. Never skip. Simon.
Yeah. Interesting. I've seen that they disliked the track and considerably little more the filler and never played it live ever. So interestingly, but I think for a song they dislike that, I think there's a lot of work in this. I've noted a lot of things about it. That there's some little bits of wah-wah, that he does, just the odd little not the great wah-wah bits, but just the kind of some bits of wah-wah, just as bits of color, bits of accentuation, bits of color. He's got two parts guitars. One plays the riff, one is a wah-wah guitar. Then he's got two guitars playing the riff. Then he's the solo, the riff, and the wah-wah. So he's got three guitars playing slightly different instrumentation. I think again, it's another piece of great production and ideas from Page. More than anything else. Just so that when you're playing along, you just listen to it. There's something new going on all the time. There's something different. There's some different text. There's some different dynamic in this. So for a song they didn't like and everything, I think they put a lot of work into it and a lot of creativity went into it. I think it's a great contrast to the previous. I like the riff plays and the vocals. So you've got that sort of riff and the vocals going on towards the end. yeah, that's 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. I do really like the song and think that it's worthy of its place. And that's, I don't know why they didn't particularly like it. I do. I think it's a great contrast to Heartbreaker, and I think that you're always on a sticky wicket following something like Heartbreaker, aren't you? But I think this song does it really well by being a complete contrast to it. Really, yes, deservedly.
Awesome.
So yes, 9 out of 10 for me. Never a skip.
The way it runs straight from Heartbreaker into Live and Love and Maid, I can't hear it any other way. That's how it has to run.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that.
Good, that, isn't it?
Got to.
Yes. Right.
Yeah. When you're listening to it on the radio, because they play it 5 times a week, it's like. Yeah. I'm glad you guys get what I mean.
How do you do that, Andrew?
Nice.
Okay, guys, bit of a history lesson here. So I went to a Catholic school, Catholic boys' school. Lord of the Rings, required reading. Tolkien, Catholic author. This is long before Peter Jackson made it into films, long before you guys got Hollywood and all that kind of stuff. Back in the days when you had to read shit. Well, at least pretend.
Reading, yes.
At least pretend to read it. But the reason why I mentioned this, obviously, the next song, "Ramble On," is it's an interesting song, isn't it? Enter Page and Plant as again another level with their songwriting. Simon and Brad, Tolkien-inspired lyrical content for Page in particular. And it's a highlight on Led Zeppelin II for me. Brad remains a splendid illustration of that light and shade that we love talking about, and we're getting that in this song. You've got that effortless chorus and the uplifting of Page's Gibson, Les Paul. It's just a wonderful song. I'm going to leave you guys some space. I just, when I hear this song, Brad and Simon, it's in a category all of its own. It has a personal attachment to me, to my essence. Because when you're a young guy and you're reading about the stuff, and then you're seeing it in a rock and roll record, Brad. Do you understand what I mean? It means so much more than just the music, Simon. It's making a cultural connection. And I remember my friends and I in English being flipped out by that. Led Zeppelin are talking about, and then they go on later on. On other albums, other songs, so I have to Brad score this. Simple. Job done.
Look, I'll tell you a story, since Andrew's given a little story, and then I'll give you my ranking. I read Lord of the Rings when I was touring around in the late 90s in a band, my first original band called Smother. I read Lord of the Rings specifically because I read a book on Led Zeppelin, and the book highlighted Robert Plant's, fascination with Tolkien and the books. Mm-hmm. And I got it and I read it. And my point of this story is, once I read the book or was reading the book, I started to put the pieces together, joined all the dots, and I realized how genius Robert Plant was writing these lyrics. So, my ranking. Another wonderful example of shade in a song. Beautiful acoustic playing from Page. Jones's bass line is like a song within its own. It's brilliant. The vocals outstanding from Robert. and lyrically, it's like taking a journey into Middle Earth. It's like it puts you right,
Hey.
it does. It puts you right there on your way to Mortar. So the pre-chorus highlights some beautiful electric guitar playing from Page, and the chorus explodes with power. And Robert Plant sings wonderfully. John Paul Jones playing some amazing bass lines. At 1 minute 46, we've got that great harmonized guitar part from Page with the electric guitars. And the dual guitar work from Page is great. That little solo he does, the two parts playing along together that he's overdubs, it always gives me goosebumps. Even I've heard the song probably a million times and it still does the same thing to me. And underneath, John Paul Jones is moving bass line. There's so much movement musically in this song, you could quite easily get confused, but it's pieced together so perfectly that I can't say anything other than it's a masterpiece, and I have to give it 100 out of 10, 1,000 out of 10. Never a skip for me.
Yeah. Yes, it is fantastic. Again, a contrast to the last thing. It's got the kind of, one of these quintessential Zeppelin things of the quiet, the acoustic bit, and then the loud electric bit. So it's got that tremendous dynamic contrast between the two parts. It's got kind of tablas on it, or some sort of percussion thing, completely different to anything we've had before. I agree with you. The bass playing is fantastic. I mean, John Paul Jones is, is the other great, I mean, they're all, three instrumentalists like that in one band. But yeah, I can't. What are the chances? The chances are, astronomical that you get three people of such talent and ability. Robert Plant as well, but he's not playing an instrument. But three instrumentalists with such talents, abilities, and understanding of music and dynamics and melody, and playing together. I think we should never underestimate their ability, the three of them, to play together, understand what the other person playing, play off the other person. I think is extraordinary in so many ways, that all three of them are like that. And you've got that you've got all that space, and Jimmy Page knows how to do these things. He's taking his Les Paul, backing off the treble knob and running it through John Mayer's sustainer. Roger Mayer, so not John Mayer, Roger Mayer, a bit before John Mayer, but for that first solo, so he's got that sustainer thing going on. It's just it's lovely, and it kind of and I think there's a tremendous amount of beauty and passion in their thing as well. It's not all blood, people talk about the bludgeoning riffs or whatever. Well, I'm not quite sure what that means really, but and that kind of as we've discussed, that kind of the heavy metal bit or whatever, which I consider to be a mile away from all of that. But you get a song like this, which is nothing to do with any of that really. I don't think. It's fantastically arranged. It's again, another tribute to Page's genius as a producer. To be able to know when put these things together, to know when what bits should go where. I need a bit there, I need a bit there. Not too much though, never too much. It's never. I never feel like we're being crowded, or whether that there's kind of overwhelming sound wise. I think that one of the great things is the space in all these songs. That when they're playing and when they're doing that makes them really special, and makes this album a special. And this is 1,000 out of 10, 100 out of Brad's score again. I think this is one of their early masterpieces, is right up there with anything they've ever done. It's one of my favorite songs, absolutely one of my favorite Zeppelin songs, one of my favorite songs, full stop.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, 10,000 out of 10 again. Oh dear.
Wonderful.
But, anyway, Andrew.
Okay, guys, so just bear with me on the next song, because I'm going to be a little bit all over the place here, but just bear with me. as I was listening to the album and making notes, I remember the Rock Professor a couple of times when we've done shows talk about drum solos and our opinion on drum solos and where they need to be and where they should be and where they are on live albums and I reflected on comments that we all made on previous ZoSo shows that there's really only one drum song that you need, and you know, it has to be, certainly for me, this song. You know, Moby Dick is just a masterpiece. It's Brad. It's just, you know, timelessness for me. It's you know, got that blues bending of Page and Jones, you know, which gives it its updatedness back in '69, and even continued right through. They were playing this, as I understand it, live right up until '77. You know, it was a track, Simon, that inspired, you know, Grand Funk Railroad, Iron Butterflies, and Agata Davida, Ginger Baker, who we love on this show, even did, you know, pinched a little bit of this for Toad, and even Ringo Starr, you know, pinched a little bit of this on The End, and the Beatles, you know, all tipping their hats to this sound, Brad, that was coming through on this album. I want to make sure that I give you guys a little bit of room here to talk about this, but, you know, Bonzo with this song thrilled audiences around the world with this song, and even to the point where he was throwing his sticks in the audience, Brad, and he's playing with his hands, you know, freaking people out. And in 2022, he's still freaking old men out like me when I think back. You know, we like talking about comparisons of studio songs on live albums, you know, and you know, we've had the pleasure on this show to rank, you know, The Song Remains the Same, and you know, to listen to this song on this album and then go and listen to other live versions of it, again, it's just something metaphysical about this song. And before I flick it off to Brad, you know, I'm not going to say that. I'll save it for my conclusion. Brad, I can't give this anything other because of what it started in this band. And the Rock Professor said it before, the caliber of these musicians. Yeah, you know, this has to be a Brad score. It can't be anything other than that. You know, a while ago I mentioned, and I see, you know, the Rock Professor's stealing the line too, you know, about playing songs to aliens, you know, when they come and invade you. This Rock Professor, this is definitely one song that they're going to go, oh yeah, we got our groove on here. Brad score. I love all versions of this. Love it.
Wow, good ranking there, Andrew. Thank you for that.
You.
Moby Dick. Look, the minute that you hear that drum start the song off, you know you're in for a bit of a treat.
Yeah.
I have to say, what an amazing snare tone on this song too. The way that he's recorded the snare sounds fantastic. I love the tambourine on the hi-hats as well. And may I add, it's a drop D riff that's just fantastic that Page and Jonesy are playing at the start there. That drop D riff is fantastic. Some great playing from Page on the guitar with his guitar licks and lead guitar work. While John Paul Jones, he's supporting with that big bass line underneath. It sounds fantastic. But obviously, this is truly a highlight for John Bonham. You know, if you listen to what he's doing there, he's playing with his hands at times, sticks quietly, explosively, bombastically. Look, I can play the drums a bit. I'm no drummer, but it doesn't take a drummer to realize that this is next level drumming. John Bonham is my favorite drummer by far and always will be. And this song, including the live versions I've heard, are the reasons why he is my favorite drummer of all time and always will be. God bless John Bonham. 1,000 out of 10, never a skip. Simon.
Yes, that was a great riff to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I think
I don't know what else to say.
it's no, it's fine. I feel disappointed in myself now. It's a great riff to start, isn't it? You know, even on the, you know, still got a great riff to do a song that is, you know, starts off, you know, that is basically a drum thing. Yeah, it's a drum solo. It is the best drum solo, but it's still a drum solo. I'm afraid I'm only going to give it 7 out of 10, but that's a cool 7 out of 10. I'm not. It's the 25-minute song remains the same one. I'm with you all the way.
What?
Oh, look at that!
What?
It's not. It's only.
You just cut him off mid-sentence.
Yeah. Well, we'll carry on the show without him.
That's so harsh. God.
Yeah.
Oh dear, I put myself in the corner. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I've become jaded about drum solos.
I know you have. I know.
But it's fine. It is a great example.
I was expecting
it's a great example, and I'm not. You know, I'm not. You know, frankly, 7 out of 10 for a drum solo is a bloody good score from me. That's what I'm saying.
I know.
So, I bow to no one in my admiration for John Bonham as a drummer. You know, I'm Brad. Like Brad, he is my favorite rock drummer. I think he's just one of the greatest. You know, for me, way he plays and stuff, you know. So yes, I'm not. I wouldn't. In taking up the Alien theme, I wouldn't play this as an example of John Bonham's genius to an Alien. You know, I'd play something else where he's playing in a song and how brilliant he is. You know, but I'm accepting the fact that he is, as I say, one of the greatest drummers, my favorite rock drummer ever. I think by a mile, and the fact that I'm only giving it 7 out of 10. I don't feel that ashamed about it, but actually, yeah, it's a drum solo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least Brad
That's
and I
fine.
brought some credibility back to the channel. So
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh. So anyway, let's. Which one of us has seen Led Zeppelin live? Which one of us has? Yeah. Never mind. Never mind. Your Fly By Night fans, you lot. You know.
Your ring-ins.
I put my £2 down and went to London to see them. Just saying. Before you'd start timing me out.
Bit of fun. Look, to be serious though, I had a bit of an inclination where the rock professor was going to go with this, because he has hinted on many shows with us what he thinks of drum solos. So that's probably one of the reasons why I went a little bit overboard. But
just to show me who's boss. Yes.
He said we don't have fun on this channel. Yeah. We don't throw anyone under the bus on this channel. You know, we just, we're in it together. Final track, Brad. Bring It On Home. Again, so from my research, Brad and Simon, originally written by Willie Dixon, some famous dude. And another famous dude was recorded it, Sonny Boy Williamson, back in '63. And, I don't think we've spoke about this, but we've spoken about it on other shows, how these British cats, Page and Plant especially, were blues disciples, weren't they? When they discovered blues, they thought they had Brad, received, the font of all knowledge. They'd drunk from what is it, the well that gives you life everlasting? What is it? What's that well called, Simon?
What, the well of eternal life or something?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
It was almost like a religious experience for these guys. To discover this music, go out there and spread it, Brad. But more importantly, play it and play the interpretation of it. What I like about this song, I found out, a little bit later, that it's a straight lift, and that's not bad. It's a straight lift from some guys that they especially love and adore. Some people over the years, I've read some reviews, said that, it's a hackneyed blues rocker. And I certainly do think that some of the live versions of this song are a lot better. But having said that, though, I've got this appreciation, Brad, of why they put this song on the end of this album, because it's almost like an unconscious homage, Simon, to a legacy of music that was giving this band at that time, a pathway to dominating the world musically and financially. They were changing the world. Plant and Page especially knew it, Brad. They knew exactly what they were doing, where they were going. The Rock Professor said a little bit earlier, they were touring the States regularly. They had a finger on the pulse, baby. They knew what was going on, and they were the spokesmen for that whole thing that was happening. Brad, and because of that, me, I'm a pushover when it comes to that, that
Suck up in the
archaeology.
blues.
Yeah. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10, and I never see this as a disjointed appendage like other reporters and journalists have said. Simon, this is perfect in its continuity for me.
Fantastic, Andrew. That was great.
Thank you, brother.
For me, bring it on home. Look, without sort of touching too much on what Andrew said, it starts off in that real blues tradition styling, even down to the harmonica. They're just channeling that, what their heroes were doing at the time. And I believe in one of the books I read that Robert sung this with something in his lips like that, so he could try and get that. To get more.
Right, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So I think there's cotton wool or something he put in there between his jaw and his lips, to get the to get that sort of vibe. Yeah. So obviously when they did it live, he used to sing it like himself and not try and copy that. But that was something that he consciously did to try and sound like his heroes. Once the song kicks in, those electric guitars are singing, and the way that he's doubled the high octave as well as the low octave together playing that riff is just fantastic. If you really listen to what's going on there, the drums are slamming. They're just fantastic. The bass line is insanely groovy. Well, it's moving around like a Stevie Wonder song, but yet it's blues. And like I said about the Lemon song, it's remarkable what John Paul Jones would do to a blues song. Robert's vocal, once the song kicks in and it's going, is just unreal. My son Elvis would kick my ass right now if I didn't give this anything but a 10 out of 10. It's one of his favorite Led Zeppelin songs. He puts it on in the car when I pick him up from the bus every day. And Led Zeppelin II is probably one of his favorite albums of all time. So I'm going to give this one 10 out of 10 for my son Elvis. And it's never a skip for me.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's an interesting. It's a sort of coda, isn't it? It's a kind of deliberately put at the end of that kind of slow thing that sort of almost winding down. I know it's got a fast bit in the middle, but that kind of that slow kind of very straight chugging 12-bar blues is kind of always feels like a coda to me. The end of the album kind of thing. So, which I think is the right place for it. It does exactly what it's supposed to do on kind of that thing at the end of a gig night and stuff like that. Brad, I'm sure you've done these things in the past where you have an encore but the last song on the encore is something quite sort of to send people on their way kind of thing. Without sort of wine, or do you leave them lying on the floor screaming? Probably.
We try to get rid of them.
Well, so for instance, yes, when we do a gig, we often play at Green Day's Good Riddance at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
We hope
Good riddance.
we hope you had the time of your life. Yeah, it's like just did a little acoustic thing with a nice kind of message. We hope you had the time of your life. It's kind of. I feel like this is a bit like that. I think I agree with you. I think that the again, it's that kind of starts off quite simply. As I say, Robert Plant didn't sound like Robert Plant. I couldn't work out what he'd done to make that kind of weird vocal effect that made him not
I
sound
thought it
like
was
Robert
something
Plant.
they did with the tape.
No.
It might be, yes. I couldn't find anything particularly I haven't had much time to research this week, but I couldn't find. But it's so, and I think the fast bit in the middle, as you said, Brad, with the second part that plays second parts of guitars that play the harmony part, and again it's that ability of Page to to do an arrangement, work it out, is and kind of absolutely put something great together. Those little touches, it doesn't have to be huge and stuff like that. I think that we were could just be a second guitar part playing a harmony here, not playing it there, just coming back to the blues bit, and then the twin guitars playing the lift along with the bass, all three of them play it towards the end of the fast bit, and you go, yeah, it's just really beautifully worked out. And I think that to me that's Page. I'm sure John Paul Jones probably had a hand in it as well, because clearly he knows what to do. All that session work, and so it pulls that together. And those, and I think that I've not heard much about. I think we always think of Led Zeppelin as being Page's, his domain, and he produced the records and put it all together, and with engineers and things. But I think I'm sure that John Paul Jones had some input into those things, if only by his playing. But but him working out what to do. So to me it's a great end of this. Really great ender, sort of chugging along that with the fast bit. I gave it a 9 out of 10, but never a skip. Fantastic ending. And as you say, takes you kind of down. Sort of like the end of a gig when you play something quiet or something. So yeah. Really cool.
Very cool.
And great harp playing as well, I should say, from Robert Plant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed especially ranking this album with you guys, and as Holly said, the ZoSo show, she loves the ZoSo show, and we always love doing the ZoSo show on the channel. And we look forward to what people have to say when they watch it on replay. Simon and Brad, we appreciate any comments. Let us know what you think, whether or not we got our scores right or wrong. Where you situate this album, this album for me is one of my favourite Led Zeppelin albums, Brad. It's one of my favourite albums.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Simon. Yeah.
I don't. They're all favourites. They're all. It's like choosing between your children. It's they're all favourites in different ways. I think this is right up there. Clearly, the way we've ranked it, and and stuff. The way I've talked about it. I think it's massively influential as a record. I think it's a great record. I think it's has creativity at its heart, at its peak. I think Jimmy Page is a genius. I think all the stuff he brings to it. and the others too are also, those, as I said just now, the way that those, the three instrumental musicians blend, play together is extraordinary to me.
Awesome.
And Plant as the icing on the cake, absolutely. Fantastic vocalist, and understanding about using his voice as an instrument as much as a singing thing as well, to enhance what the band does. I think,
Awesome.
how can you not love it?
If you're watching back on a replay, you've spent 2 hours and 15 minutes with us. We don't often lately go over 2 hours. We normally do shows about an hour and a half. But, every now and again we do a special. So we do appreciate your patience if you've endured having to hang out with us for 2 hours and 15 minutes. I'm going to be back here live on the channel in about 8 hours' time. So I'm going to go and get something to eat, get some beauty sleep, and I'll be on the channel live for a couple of hours before we go to work. Hopefully the Rock Professor and Brad and Hoss will jump on and keep you guys company while we're celebrating EVH Con number 7 tomorrow. We look forward to that. We'll see some people there. We've got Jonas in the chat. The Rock Professor's going to go and do a bit of a shout out to you guys all.
Yeah.
Next week, Brad, we're back here with another great album, Heaven and Hell. Please go and check that out. We look forward to that. Brad, I'm going to give you the last word, bro, and then the Rock Professor's going to do the shout out, and we're going to cruise.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you everyone for watching if you've got this far, and keep sharing our episodes and sharing our channel. That's what's helping us grow, and thank you so much for that. Great pick, Andrew. I'm glad we finally got this album done. It's well overdue, and it's probably, like you said, it's right up there as one of my favorite albums of Zeppelin, and probably one of my favorite albums of all time. So a bit hard to rank this without giving it 10 out of 10s the whole way along. So well done, guys. And, it was really good to hear everyone's ranking of this, Andrew and Simon. So I'll get back and I listen now to these songs again with your point of view.
Awesome.
So Simon.
Jonas Halberg wants to know, is your T-shirt bought on Jimmy Page's website?
Okay, I bought this T-shirt. Maybe it's very old. It's older than my son, so it's 16, 17 years old, this T-shirt. So I believe I bought it from Jimmy Page's website or Led Zeppelin's, but that was a long time ago. So I'm sure they're available around the place on the internet. Yeah. 100%.
Right. Well, I thought I'd spotted that, so I thought I'd ask a question. So thanks to Arvin, Holly, Lewis, Nelson, Rodriguez, of course, John ZD351. Nice to hear Sabbath an album with a decent singer. Johnny Heartbreaker. Thanks, Johnny. Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for joining and sticking with us after passing to us. Gret Zeppelin as well. Who else has made some comments going back up the list? Hugh Caldwell. Thanks, Hugh. Look forward to hearing your re-recordings of the first 2 tracks. That'll be interesting. Robert Ranford as well. Robert's gone to bed sensibly. Arvin. Hugh Caldwell. I think that's everybody. Charlie S. Thanks, Charlie, for dropping by. Good to see you. I think that's hopefully that's everybody.
That was Liquid Charlie.
So thank you all, guys. Liquid Charlie. Right. Okay. Liquid Charlie. So thank you, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
See you tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow. Sorry, yes, or later. Yes. Forgetting myself. Bye all.
You guys getting tired? Getting hungry?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can do this all night.
Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Mrs. Williams.
Yes. Rest in peace.